fierce and bold. The roaming demons guard the tales of all. Their elemental domain they defend with vengeance. Their power knows no end. Through the storm and the sacred fire.
Ohio! Hello and welcome to this How I Paint Daimyo for Conquest, the last argument of kings. The miniature was gifted to me by Parabellum themselves, and I was honored to paint this one up in this rather mind-boggling, crazy what have I done Peacock scheme on the vest and scabbard, and keep the rest muddled down a bit so that it doesn't explode in your eye and you lose focus immediately. I hope you like the miniature and want to go through the steps with me. If there is something you're interested, especially like how does the peacock feathers have been painted, just check the timeline to get your section that you are most interested in. Instead of grabbing a cup of tea and something to eat like on the other videos, this one is more straightforward, fast one, and you can tell me what you like more. These I go through every detail in all its nitty-gritty experience, or more this streamlined half-an-hour tutorial in the future. So let us start with the Daimyo. This is the black base-coated miniature, and I left the torso separately for a better painting experience and started with burnt umber through the airbrush. This is to give a good brown base coat to everything and tie everything together, as well as preparing the base and the tree, the 3D printed tree, right now for painting later. If you don't got an airbrush, yes, there could be the color applied by a regular paintbrush, but in my case I paint armies, I paint many miniatures, and I need the speeded up airbrush process. The next step is preparing the skin tone, and for this I use a pale blue gray from Vallejo to give it a highlight, so that the scarlet red I apply now would look better and give a more vibrant finish than just spraying it over the brown paint. This is done on the face that's showing through the mask, on arms, legs and hands and stuff, and I don't mind overspray now, cause the other areas would be painted later. Followed up by bloody red to give the color more brightness. And to be honest, on this stage of the miniature, I didn't even know I want to go peacock crazy. So this was a total crazy experiment for me, and I hope it paid off. If you put these highlights down with the color, keep in mind to leave the areas that are more in the shadows, like under the armpit or underneath the body between the legs, a bit darker, so you get a highlight and a transition already by applying this paint. Next up, I mix a bit of Athena skin into the blood red, rather 2-to-1 mix to apply a highlight, and this one is because I don't want to go too crazy on the bright fiery red. I want to finish up the miniature in a more muted down fleshy red. So I prepare this one with the skin tone. Next up is pure Athena skin through the airbrush on some of the muscle, on the sculpted muscles, to give some more highlights right now, so that I don't need to paint that much later with the brush. And with this, we're nearly done with the airbrush. There's only one thing, the belt. I want it to be yellowish, because I will need to tie up the miniatures with at least one colored element, and I thought it would be like a orangey, yellowy cloth piece to fit everything together. That's part of the same regiment or same type of miniature. Next up is golden yellow, in this case. Cause all these close quarters combat, these bruisers that want to go in are like yellowish. And all the miniatures that want to stay back would be a mottled green or something like this. I will work it out later. Now on to the paintbrush. This is the armor panels. I start with Abaddon Black for a good black base coat on all these parts. And this is my shadow color as well. I don't need much of shading or glazing on this miniature, as you can see later. This is my shadow color, and the true black, in air quotes, would be applied in the next step. So work around all the parts of the miniature that should be black, like the armor parts on arms, on the helmet of the Daimyo, and he got a armored skirt underneath the Peacock vest that's sticking through. And now I apply my quote-unquote real black. This is Corvus black, kind of a dark gray anthracite tone. That would look black in comparison to the other colors that would be applied later. And just roughly apply this on each of the black areas and leave something of the Chaos Black showing, Abaddon Black showing through, so that there is a shadowy gap. Next up I use Corvus Black 2 parts and Thunderhawk Blue 1 part, and paint in some of the edges and on the curved areas some of the highest parts to give the feeling of a rather amateurish non-metallic metal tone, and go into the bluish black or blue-grayish highlights to give it more of a natural feeling, because if you go gray, a cold gray, it could look unnatural. So I went this route on the miniatures. Next up is pure Thunderhawk Black. These are my final highlights. These are some of the edges and some of the scratches on the armor panel, as you can see here. I paint in small lines and tiny dots on the edges and here and there, and try not to edge highlight all of the parts, so it looks a bit worn up and is a bit more pleasing to the eye in my imagination. And this is all I've done for the black armor. These are rather big miniatures. There is an awesome canvas for painting crazy stuff, but I think you don't need to go full total crazy. You can keep the details down and it looks good as well. Next up is dried bark to paint all the leathery bits, and in this case I've messed up. The thing in between the legs is the vest and not an armor piece that I painted black before, so I will overpaint it. Just a small remark on the black armor. If you want to go a bit more non-metallic metal-like, you could add a bit of Fenrisian grey highlights to give it a bit more vibrancy on the edges and on the surfaces. But for me, this one is okay. Next up is Calcium Flesh Tone. This is my exclamation mark true leather tone, because the dried bark is my dark shadowy leather tone, as well as the Abaddon Black on the black parts. Then I apply the first highlight, Gorthor Brown. Same procedure as on the black parts. Pick out some of the edges, paint in some scratches here and there. and finish it up with Baneblade Brown as a final highlight. Cause if you search on the internet for worn leather, there are many parts of the leather pieces that are broken up and doesn't retain the color they had before when they are pristine and new. And you can go over these brownish beige tones or over the reddish brownish tones, so feel free. Next up, peacocks. The peacock feathers, better to say. I started with a blue undercoat in Counter Blue and get up with a more Frenchy blue, Alatok blue from Citadel for the structure on the feathers. On the right upper hand, I've shown you the rough example I've worked with in this case. And I tried to start with the blackish eye and the circle around it, and then go for these small lines that are here and there. And there are many colors. And I've gone totally crazy after finished everything of this. So would I do it again? Maybe. Would I do it again this or next month? No. No. This was a crazy experience for me. And this was the first green tone. This was Warboss green. And then there is another half circle of a brownish tone. I took XV88 from Citadel and work these eye feather pattern from the peacock up from the bottom to the edge of the feather, as you can see here. Just small lines, leave some of the previous color shown through, so that you can get a feeling on what it should be later. Next up is a darkish reddish brown line. I took Mornfang Brown from Citadel for this, and if you want to ask, yes, I use the Vallejo range for my airbrush and use the Citadel range for my regular acrylics. Sometimes I paint some of the airbrush colors with brush, but more regularly I use this method. So, and you can see it's just becoming like this is the real thing. Next up is a brightish green. I took Mood Green for this, or for example, you can take something like Scorpy Green from Citadel, from Vallejo, sorry, if you don't want to go Citadel. These are just the colors I use, and the brand you use is up to you. So don't feel like it's mandatory to pick up Citadel colors for painting this miniature. Of course, many of you know it, but the newcomers get questions, and these questions need to be answered. And you can see I apply the color in slight brush strokes that go in conjunction to the structure of the feather, so that I can simulate these light feathery texture a bit more. Next up is Angel Green from Vallejo Game Air. I use this one by brush and paint in the outer edge of the feather, the nearly finishing part here. And as I said before, the feathers was tedious work, and it was the part that took the longest on this miniature. But it's the biggest surface, nearly the whole torso, and this skirt piece is in this structure, so it looks awesome later. To give this more of a three-dimensional feeling later, I applied a mottled down highlight, or better to say finish, with a more olive green, and I took Death World Forest from Citadel to add some kind of feather structure details. If this is not too shady enough for you, if you need more separation between the feathers, you could theoretically use a mix of 2 parts thinner medium and 1 part of a shade, like maybe Agrix Earth Shade or something like this, and apply it on the blackish parts that there would be bluish part, that there would be more of a shadow, if you like. But for me, it's totally fine. So after everything is painted, I go on with the base, cause it's a good time right now. This is the standard basing technique I use nearly always on the Conquest miniatures. This was the brown base coat before, and now I dry brush on Steel Legion Drab as a kinda base tone, and follow this one up with Bane Blade Brown as a mid-tone and Karak Stone as a highlight. The mid-tone is applied on most of the surfaces, and the highlight is applied on more of the edges, maybe on the front of the base, or where there is a height difference. There could be a more defined highlight for this. But keep in mind, the most of these highlights would be hidden by the flock that I apply later. Next up, all the beige brownish things on the miniature. There are ropes, there are straps, and there are teeth and bone. The base coat for this one is Steel Legion Drab, and I apply Bane Blade Brown as a first color. This one is on the bone here, you can see it. Leave a bit of the Steel Legion Drab showing through on the edges and on the areas underneath the object. And for the ropes and the straps, I use more of a small line pattern to imitate the structure that is already modeled. Next up is Karak Stone, of course, for the bones on the miniature and the teeth of the Daimyo. There is the same technique as before with Bane Blade Brown, but keep a bit of the Bane Blade Brown showing through. And on those skulls I put maybe a bit underneath the miniature. I keep the highlights a bit back. Of course, there wouldn't be that much light hitting the miniature. In my painting philosophy, the light always hits the miniature from up above, and the shadowy areas are underneath the miniature. If you go for another lighting setup, it would be totally different maybe, and affect the miniature a bit different, but this is my philosophy. Light source above the miniature, highlights would be positioned in conjunction to this. Next up is Ushapti Bone for the skulls, bones, teeth. And you can see what I do with the brush here. Just some tiny highlights here and there to make these areas pop a bit more against these rather natural, desaturated looking peacock vest. And going on with this rope and straps, I go with another color gradient. This is Rakath Flesh. As well, I try to paint the structure and give a small highlight with Pallid Witch Flesh on the areas where maybe the light hits a bit more. So in front of the shin and on the side of the foot, but not in between the legs. Next up, the metal parts. Real easy metals for me. I use Balthasar Gold for the goldish brassy areas as a base coat and as a quote-unquote shadow color. Just apply it straight out of the pot as I apply my colors all the way. I know I'm rather like a noob, but come on, it's okay. It's okay. For the katana, it is the Iron Warrior color. This is the darkest metal tone that Citadel got right now, as I recall correctly. And there are only these small areas here. So just hit them up with colors, and we go on for the Daimyo's metal gold tone. I like my golds a bit more mottled down into the brass spectrum, and for this one I use Rune Lord Brass and hit up most of the areas, but leave the lower parts of the ornamentation and stuff like this in the Balthasar gold color, and as well on all these armor parts, on arms and legs, and on the helmet, so that it would look good. Next up is a rather thick coat, or more spacious coat of lead belcher on the katana, and I finished it up with Runefang steel. Just paint these sharpest edges and paint some of the areas where maybe light reflects a bit more on the goldish parts, because if you look real close on a real brassy or goldy piece, the edges where the light hits would shine silvery. So this is my way to do it. Next up, some work around the yellows. This is more orangey yellow right now, so I pick Avalanche Sunset, the base tone from Citadel, to apply some highlights here and there and fix some of the over-painted parts. Next up is Moon Yellow, not Doom Yellow, sorry, Moon Yellow for another highlight. And as you can see, I do it like on the armor, like on the leathers. This is the same technique. Pick out some of the edges with small lines and dots to give a roughened up texture. And next up is Dorn Yellow as a desaturated, really bright but not too yellowy yellow for a final highlight, and add some more of the roughened up texture. When everything is ready for yellow, I have glued the miniature together and go on with the skin tone. First up is Wazdaka Red. This was my first try, and I have to say, yes, it's a bit darker than my highlight color, so I paint around the highlights a bit. But it's okay, because I need to fix up some of the areas, maybe on the red part of the right knee. There is a bit of overspray with yellow, so I can fix it with this color. This is the closest I can go with a unmixed color. Next up is Wazdaka Red with a tiny editing error. This is Lugganath Orange from Citadel. Maybe I fix this one when I render it in post later. This is an equal of 2 parts Wazdaka, 1 part Lugganath for a first highlight. Why do I take the color orange for my highlights? Good question, Timmy. I asked this. I will answer this one. If you go with white, it would go really strong into the pinkish tones. If you go yellow, it's too much in the orange spectrum. And if you take Lugganath, it's kind of mix in between yellow and white, so it would go a bit more into the rose pinkish area, but not too much. It wouldn't stray too far, so it's fine for me. And as you can see here, these are only the highlights colors I apply. Apply another part of Lugganath and check it and see, oh, that's too bright. Apply another part of Wazdaka, and we are roughly 3 to 2 parts right now. Paint in some more of these muscle strings here and there where maybe the light would hit. So you don't need to paint the inner parts of the legs. You don't need to paint underneath the arms. You maybe need only to paint the chin and the lips on the face. You don't need to paint around the eyes, because there is no light that would hit there. You can leave it here. You can add more colors as I go with another coat. There is a bit more of Lugganath painted in for another highlight, but I don't want to be the guy that paints skin like the Daimyo has has used oil on his body and everything is shiny and bright and it's like a bodybuilder contest. No, it should look natural. And if the highlight is a bit too much, don't stress out. You just can wash out the paint brush real quick. Use a bit of water, so a dampened brush, and smooth the area out. Remove the paint, or if I do here, go for a bit of wet blending. Have you ever heard of wet blendings? This is awesome. Maybe I can explain wet blending in a future tutorial a bit more. And the only thing to do now is just go for the base. I don't show you the base in this tutorial. You could check out the kit soon for how I base with flock, with tufts, with these clump foliage on the tree, and you can paint the animals, if you got any animals, like you want, like I do with these poison dart frogs and the bamboo, and there could be so many things on a base, like ducks, like other peacocks, like little badgers and foxes and squirrels like this one in the tree, and you can go totally crazy with it. So I hope you like the short format. Write it down in the comments below if you want to go more of these maximum of a half an hour, or if you want to go with 1 hour plus videos, and I would check the response later for the next upcoming tutorial. So, I hope you liked it. Leave a like, leave a comment, share it with your Yoroni fans out there, and we see us in the next one. Till then, I'm out for today. Keep on wargaming!
Ancient whispers of me emeraldly